And we're live.
We are live.
You can't see us, but
But we are here.
but we are here. On a nice, chilly morning.
Another day in the woods.
It is another day in the woods. Or at least close to the woods.
Yep. Thank you, sir.
Mm-hmm. Got a little bit of hail coming in.
Yeah. Bit of snow pellets.
Oh, it's a beautiful day in my neighborhood.
Very nice.
Well,
Very nice.
I was just saying, just like that, it stopped.
Yeah, right.
A little chilly today, mid-40s.
Boy, yesterday was nice.
It was. And I was at a job site, and it was, sun was out, and nice little breeze. It wasn't, had some gusts, but it wasn't too windy.
Mm-hmm.
So it was nice if you're in the shade. It was perfect, unless the wind was blowing. But if you stood in the sun too long, it got hot.
Yeah.
Unless the wind was blowing. But it was a beautiful day, clear.
Yeah. It looked like I was on the Bahamas, or in the Bahamas yesterday. Loose-fitting linen shirt and some beads. Perfect temperature all day. Not so much today. Let's see, I got multiple layers on.
Yeah.
And a down jacket. But 'tis the season.
It is.
Coming up on the Halloween season. There's a topic for Christians.
Yep.
To make everybody uneasy.
And disagree. Adamantly.
Gosh. Also disagreeable with everything. What the heck? It's that fight for security. Mm-hmm. Everybody's got to believe like me, or I don't feel safe. I don't feel secure. I haven't examined my beliefs enough to feel secure in myself. I need other people to believe the same thing.
Yep.
Ridiculous.
And then we cover that under the guise of, I just want to make sure that you're safe and, you don't do anything to hurt yourself or your family.
Yeah. Last I checked, you weren't responsible for my family.
Oh, tell me how you really feel.
So people take responsibility for yourselves, and beyond that, let's see, what did Jesus say? Oh, love your neighbor.
Love one another.
Love one another.
But I think that's where people, like you said, if you haven't taken the time to sit quietly and examine yourself, you can be lying to yourself. And like I said, a lot of people think that they're doing something for someone else out of love, when it's really out of, I don't know, pride, selfishness. I had it a second ago in my head and just as quickly left. But
Yeah.
We've talked about this before. I'm doing something for someone else, not necessarily to be seen, but to be seen by myself. Like, it's a prideful thing, and they do it under the guise of love.
Yeah.
When in reality, that's not what it is.
Yeah, so my religious self can feel better.
There it is.
Because if I love somebody, I'm going to tell them the truth. It's like, yes, but there's love that's way beyond and bigger than telling them your truth.
Well, and it's all about timing.
Absolutely.
It might be truth, and it might be, spiritual, dead-on, bullseye truth, but if it's not the right timing, and you're not the one who's supposed to be delivering said truth, are you really doing it out of love?
Or just out of a feeling of making your religious self feel better.
Yeah. Like when I was a young teenager and a little hellion, my mom found... No, not me. I've always been perfect. My mom found the perfect moment when we were on a missions trip to say what needed to be said. Because I was complaining about this little kid who was a total pain in the butt and super annoying and disrespectful. And she reached across the table and with the most loving eyes looked at me and said, "Sweetie, you're exactly like her." And it broke my ever-loving heart. And I cried and apologized. And I think that was a big turning point in my young... Yeah. I think I was 13 maybe. But she could have said that at any moment.
Yeah.
She knew I was a pain in the ass. She lived with me.
But that was the right moment.
That was the moment.
Like,
and it was
this
received.
Is going to land.
And it stuck with me for, 20 plus years now.
Yeah.
That was the moment.
Yeah.
If she'd have told me any other moment, or if she would have came at me because she was frustrated or angry, or even just out of selfishness of she was tired of it, and tried to say a loving thing, it probably wouldn't have gotten received the way it did.
Yeah.
But in that perfect moment, she delivered the perfect message that just cut me deep in a good way.
Yeah. This may be a really poor example, but it's because it could be taken wrong. But it's like a sniper. It's all building up to that shot. And then finding that perfect moment, not taking it too soon.
Yep.
And not letting the shot pass.
Yeah, if you know you're the one to deliver the message, you just have to wait for your moment. And the Holy Spirit will prompt you, and boom, you can take your moment.
If, like you said, we've been quiet enough and we have some discernment, and you have discernment from quietness and that insight. But if you're just running your religious life, you're not going to have discernment because you're never quiet enough to have that insight and discernment. And you just go out there and say stuff and spray and pray.
Yeah. Yeah, my last leadership role, I sat quiet more than I brought up issues. And that was hard. Because when you see something and you know what needs to be fixed, it's hard, especially when it's in your department and it's affecting everyone around you. And you just want to get it fixed. But I sat quiet a lot more than I pulled people aside and had a conversation with them. And more often than not, when that conversation needed to be had, they brought it up or something that led into that. So I'm like, there it is, Lord. There's my moment.
Don't take that shot at the wrong angle and just hope that it, meets the mark, hits the mark. Wait until you know it's going to. Yeah, when people come and ask or open the door themselves, they're a lot more ready to receive.
And sometimes, I've been having conversations and somebody's saying something and it's very religious, not religious, but they, religious in the aspect of self-serving, and they don't realize it. I've very pointedly confronted that and been like, nope.
Yeah.
That's a lie. Well, what do you mean? And then I explain it. And because if you know the people and you know how they can receive things, you know how to talk to them. And again, you wait for that moment. Holy Spirit says, go. And you go.
Got to be ready to take it.
It gets received.
Yeah.
But
very true.
Not every time. And I mean, sometimes I thought I hit the mark and man, did I miss it. So I'm like, oh, yep, that's when I needed to do it. That's when I'm supposed to say it.
Dang it, I wasn't ready.
Yeah.
I've been crawling up on this target for a week. And there was the opportunity before I expected it to be, and I didn't have a round chambered.
But yeah, Halloween, disagreeing on what. This is a whole different conversation. I was about to say, what is worship?
Push in the clutch, shift to another gear.
Well, and we were talking about this the other day when we had our, prep talk for this episode, and it's everybody has a camp that they sit in when it comes to, I would say, near all major holidays. Thanksgiving's probably the only one that most people agree on, because you're giving thanks and it's time to come together. However that means, everybody's a little different on how they do it and what they eat, but it's essentially all the same.
Right.
We don't really argue religious points on that.
Yeah.
Christmas, I think, still mostly all together, but then there's factions. What were you telling? I had never even heard that. Like kneeling down to get the present. And
kneeling down to get the present under the tree, that you're worshiping the tree.
And now is that like somebody's philosophy on because of your body position, or?
Yeah, I think so. That's the way I take it. I don't know.
I'd never heard that, and that might be one of the craziest things I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Not to offend anyone if you believe that. I'm obviously ignorant on the subject of why you believe that, but I don't think I can accidentally worship a tree.
That's my big thing. I don't think you can accidentally do that. But I'm willing to be changed on that. But at this point, I think worship has to be a willful act. I'm not going to accidentally worship something that I did not intend to worship.
And I think there's a difference in actively worshiping and accidentally having an idol. So you can have an idol because of what you're pouring your time, emotions and thoughts into it, and create an idol for yourself, whether it be work, a person, a thing, whatever. But I think having an idol and worshiping an idol, or having an idol and worshiping, are two very different things. I think idols can happen unintentionally, and worship has to be an intentional act. Because you ever think about, have you ever heard a message of, well, did you know that you were accidentally worshiping the Lord? Or is every time it's referenced an intentional act?
That's and that's a very good point. Because anything, just kind of running through the Rolodex in my head, it's things that I've heard that you're accidentally bringing in, you're accidentally worshiping, things that you accidentally trip into, are all evil things.
Yep. But I've never accidentally worshiped the Father.
Right. And like we've talked about before too, with the demoniac. Things have power that we give power to. And the more power and attention you give something, the more power it's going to have in your life. And like the demoniac, when Jesus and the disciples hit the coast, even though he had a legion of demons couldn't prevent one kind of mentally deranged man from coming to Jesus.
Yep.
So really, how powerful are they?
Not. Unless you give them a power and see them around every corner. Well, and, there's a lot of different people out there, and they make great points of magnify the Lord. Well, how do you do that? You focus on Him. What's magnifying?
That's
focusing in.
100%.
So what are you magnifying when you're seeing demons in every dark corner, And again, not to make light of people's experiences.
Right, totally.
Because I've had some weird experiences. You know, one of my sisters has had some really weird experiences. That being said, are those experiences because of our ignorance in what we've given them the power to do?
Right.
You know, intentionally or unintentionally. Because I know there is cases to be made for when you're in sin, you're opening doors for things to be able to then affect you. That being said, I don't know how much.
Right.
Because, I've never lived a perfect life, but man has the Father taking care of, me and my family.
Right.
Even when I was young and we were very ignorant and going down the right path in the right direction, but we didn't have it yet, He still protected us.
Yeah.
In a multitude of ways. So I just think that the more, like we're saying, the more you focus in on something, instead of focusing on the Father and yours relationship, if you're sitting there focusing on what demons or whatevers can do to you, you're giving them more power than they deserve.
Yeah.
And you might be giving them more power than they have. And the more you speak it, well, what are our words? Power and creation.
We're co-creators.
Yeah, we're co-creators in the demonic entities in our lives that are now affecting us because we're speaking it into existence.
Yeah.
Am I not only giving him permission if I say a demon can do X, Y, Z to me and my family? Am I not only giving him permission because I've just said he can, but am I not then creating his ability to do so by speaking it into existence?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. We had a gentleman come into our house, live with us for a while that was, end stage, like kidney failure and all this. Had a couple weeks, apparently. But as soon as he stepped in, and bringing people into your house, this will kind of coincide with you don't know exactly what you're bringing in and all this kind of stuff. But as soon as he got in, I told him, okay, now, it's ultimately, a healing is ultimately up to that person.
Yeah.
But I told him, in this house, in my house, there's only life.
Yeah.
There's only life here. So you're going to get better.
Yeah.
It's still up to you, yes, but there's only life here. So whatever is demonic or sickness or whatever else is trying to come through the front door, there's only life in our house, and that's just a settled thing.
Yeah.
And he could barely walk. Second day he was there, had him on a bicycle, and he's riding a bicycle around the front, big smile on his face, laughing. Just, there's life.
Yeah.
We expected to have him a couple weeks, ended up having him a couple months, and then he moved somewhere else and passed away within a couple days, or a couple weeks, something like that. But just to kind of parallel with what we were talking about, letting stuff in, we've got a whole lot more power than anything demonic, anything wrong, anything sick. We got to walk that out. I haven't figured everything out with a lot of areas.
Yeah.
Even that area still. But that was a great example to me that, there's only life here. There's only prosperity here. Haven't fully figured it out. That's why it's called a journey. I mean, we're still walking this stuff out.
Well, that made me think of, in the Old Testament, the tabernacle, only the priest who had been sanctified and purified and yada, 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 could enter in to the not deepest, but furthest
room.
Yeah, the furthest chamber.
Yeah.
And the only reason they were the only ones allowed to, because that was the current guidelines set up. Anyone else that would try to go in there, they would die instantly. So, if the Father can set up a room to where only those that are sanctified that can come in. Why wouldn't we be able to set up our home, our lives, where only the righteous things, we're not talking about striking people dead when they walk into your house because they're a sinner, but anything attached to them, you know, gets stripped away.
And no power. No power.
None whatsoever.
Yeah.
And again, that being said, some people are really dedicated to the sicknesses in their lives. They're dedicated to the evil in their life, and they're going to speak out and keep that created existence in their life. You know, there's just people that's sadly because of the life they've led and the people they've had in their lives, that's their existence of, oh, everything bad always happens to me. I'm just not a lucky person. You know, this isn't a surprise. It's been this way my whole life. It's going to be like this till I die. And you're just like...
You just created your future.
Yeah, sweet Jesus. Did you hear yourself?
Yeah. So true. Yeah, and to the point that you had mentioned earlier, living in sin or whatever. I mean, the world... I love looking at things from a different angle. It's like... You get a 3D view of it when you turn it around and look at it from a different angle. But the world, or people that are in different systems or whatever, belief, they'll call it energy. And doing wrong things, lying to someone, whatever these typical things, having lust in your heart for someone's stuff or whatever, or a person... all that stuff you're putting out, and I think it's true in a certain sense, just different language.
Yeah.
You're putting out a negative energy, and you get those negative energies, you're dealing in that negative energy more, as opposed to being generous, showing love to someone that's being nasty to you. What loving in any way. Let's see, what did Jesus say? Covers a multitude of sins? Or somebody said that. So that's giving you a positive energy.
Yeah.
When you can tell as soon as you meet someone, they overall kind of have this negative energy about them, whether it's sin or not, whatever, but they generally have this negative sense, like you were saying, with what they say, or do they generally have this positive sense and carry things lightly and not so heavy? That negative energy, sin, whatever, it's so heavy.
What sucks the life out of you.
Yeah.
Because it's not life. Sin is death.
Yeah.
And we're supposed to be dead to sin so we can have life. Draw that in a circle.
Yep. Yeah, eat from the tree of life, not from the tree of good and evil, which is a judgment. Were we talking about that the other day?
No.
Yeah, Gina and I were talking about that. And I've still got to process that. This is... Here we are. We process on the show. We don't know what we're talking about. We just process as we're talking.
This is our time to process.
Yeah.
You don't have time to process while you're at work and while you're running around doing what people call life. You don't have time to live.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, that eating, from the tree of good and evil or from the tree of life. 'Cause somebody had mentioned the other day, I forget what it was, something. Anyway, it was pretty negative, and I just had this realization. I've been on enlightening things for a while now, and staying out of all this judgment stuff, good and evil, Republican, Democrat, Baptist, Methodist, whatever, any kind of thing where there's judgment. This one's right, this one's wrong.
Yeah.
And it's so much nicer eating from the tree of life, where it's just thinking about beautiful things.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, I've been in this mindset and didn't even realize it, like unicorns and rainbows. Taste the rainbow Skittles. And it's only life instead of the judgment life. I don't know. Seems to make a difference just to eat from life. I mean, how much did Jesus get involved with all the little piddly things? He just wanted to give life.
Yeah.
Healed everyone he came across. He was giving life.
And he was teaching, and he did, rebuke the Pharisees. But that's something religious people, he was rebuking them because of their adamant, attitude towards what he was doing, which was trying to give life.
Yeah.
Trying to show love.
And they were opposing it. Yeah, and he would go around and tell people your sins are forgiven. Release people from that bondage.
Yeah.
That negative energy, the whatever the heck you want to call it. Release them from that bondage.
Yeah.
In fact, somebody mentioned the other day, and it's like, wow, I've never thought of that before. And I have to go back and look at it. Again, processing on the show.
Mm-hmm.
Did he ever tell anybody, like right now, I forgive your sins? It's like all the times that I'm remembering, he said, your sins are forgiven.
Yeah.
He's like, he was just making a statement.
Yeah.
It's like not that they weren't forgiven a second ago until he said that. He was just telling them a statement.
Yeah.
Your sins are forgiven.
He was telling them truth.
Mm-hmm.
Supernatural, universal truth.
Yeah.
I'm just letting you know, those things that are weighing you down, they're forgiven.
Yeah.
Don't let them weigh you down.
It's done.
Yeah.
Before he went to the cross.
Yeah.
Put that in your cigar and smoke it.
Yeah.
That's going to be too much to process right now.
All right, well, let's roll into our first break. And then we will be right back.
Yeah, I'm starting to shiver a little.
We are back once again.
Back in.
Well.
Yep.
Doing it the lazy way, just audio.
Oh, yeah. Well, this is more like a podcast YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
At least I don't have to fix my hair.
I don't have to rearrange my living room.
Right. Too easy. Mm-hmm.
So where do you focus your energy? And actually, is that really inappropriate? Because if we have life and death is in the power of the tongue, what's power? Energy. So is it really that Eastern and outside of the realm of Christianity to believe that your energy, your power, is in your speech? I mean, it's just it's like semantics. It's just literally the words that that give people a pause.
Yeah.
That worry them.
Mm-hmm. Getting too Eastern.
Mm-hmm.
Which is funny because Jesus is Eastern.
Mm-hmm. Well, he's from the Middle East.
Oh, the Middle. Okay. Because that's not
you go any more eastwardly, then you get weirder, I guess.
So what we're afraid of, what we're supposed to be afraid of, is Far East. Mm-hmm. Middle East is okay.
Yep, totally fine.
Near East, even better.
Yeah. Well, not really in this day and age.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Because Middle East is kind of sketchy for Christians.
It's so hard to keep up with what we're supposed to stay away from.
Yep.
What we're supposed to be afraid of, scared of.
And it was interesting. I was listening to, what book is that? Supernatural Ways of Royalty by Bill Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
And he was talking about if you have unforgiveness, it opens up the door to the tormentors. It releases them to be able to torment you, which I found interesting. And I was like, oh, okay. You know, and that makes sense. People with unforgiveness are usually bitter people, and just things just happen to them, you know, and
negative energy.
And then you get set in a cycle. And, but also people in sin, you know, and I forget how he phrases it. But again, it's not a punishment. It's a consequence to an action.
Mm-hmm.
If you're intentionally focused on and living in sin, things come with that. You know, if you smoke meth, not only will you become a meth addict, but you also start to have some physical consequences. Teeth, body, you know, scabbing and scarring and all these other issues. It's not, you know, it's a consequence. It's not like meth is an entity that's like, I'm going to mess your body up. You know, there's a consequence to an action. If you smoke meth, there will be physical ramifications. You will become addicted, and things in your body will start to fall apart. You know, it's just, that is how it is. So if God set up the universe in a certain manner, you know, every action has an equal and opposite reaction. It's mirrored and shown in nature and science.
Right.
Why would it not be the same in the spirit, which is truth?
Right.
Which is what real reality is. And so how much of things that happen, you know, going back to the Halloween stuff and demons and all that jazz, how much of that is another entity affecting your life? How much of that is your creative power bringing these things into being and affecting your life? And then how much of that is just a natural consequence of the universe? Not like, oh, universe, but of the way that God created the universe to be. It's a natural the universe, and this is where I think the East does have some. The universe does have not a consciousness, but it feels like that because there's a reaction to your action. And
totally.
If you don't have the full truth of why that is, which is it was created to be that way, I can see how you get lost in thinking it's an entity, you know, of some sorts.
Right.
Or a thing with a conscious being of sorts.
Right. Exactly.
You know, it doesn't have to be an entity, but it has a consciousness. The universe has a consciousness. And I'm not sure that it doesn't. Because when Cain killed Abel and his blood spilled into the earth cursed Cain. So
not God. God was helping him out.
The earth cursed Cain. And so now it's like, okay, so does the earth have a consciousness? And not in a manner in which we understand consciousness.
Right.
You know, even a super advanced AI can seem to have a consciousness of sorts because it's been programmed to react to action.
Programmed.
And God created the universe, programmed it all. Everything has it does react. So how much of the turmoil we endure in life is self-caused, outside influence, demonic outside influence, evil influence, and just a cosmic reaction because that's the way it's built.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
You know, if I don't exercise and don't eat right, well, if I just don't exercise, and even if I eat right, I'm probably going to get fat. If I exercise way more than I should and eat whatever I want, I can stay in shape. It's a reaction to choice.
It's not a demon coming, as opposed to a demon coming in and making you fat. Like, no, he didn't. It's just a consequence. I mean, we see it in that, but in other things, it's a demonic attack. It's a whatever.
And again, it might be. So then take some time to sit quietly and commune with the Father and be like, why?
Yeah.
Why does this demon, why does this evil spirit entity have, because you tell me that they have no power, that they have no rights, that they're below me and they're under my feet. So why is it then that they are, why do they have authority? Why do they have power in my life? Is a better question than do they or do they not?
Right.
Because if they are affecting you and you are having these experiences, the better question is why?
Yeah.
Because the Bible says they shouldn't.
Yeah.
Scripture shows us that they shouldn't.
Yeah.
Jesus handled all of this.
Yeah.
So if they do, there's the better question is why?
Yes. Be adult enough, mature enough, whatever, to ask, like you said, okay, what am I doing
Or
that's
not doing.
allowing, or not doing, that's allowing this?
And realistically, it's what am I doing? Because it's more of the what am I doing to bring these natural consequences?
Yeah, exactly. Because it's just, I like the way it says that with the tormentors, opening yourself up to tormentors. You know, a lot of we'll think demonic, but just like you said, it's if you have unforgiveness or whatever, it's your bitterness is going to torment you.
Yeah.
These negative thoughts are going to torment you.
And that's not an outside entity.
Right. That's just natural consequence.
Well, and think about when you're opening up the door to torment and the tormentors. That can, and as you were saying that, I just kind of got a picture of, if I'm in unforgiveness, I'm in a certain mindset. And if you say something that offends me, I'm going to be tormented. I'm going to be offended. And that's going to further my offense and bitterness. Whereas if I'm not in unforgiveness, whether it's towards you or someone else, my mindset, my heart, my focus is in a different place. If I'm focused on loving, forgiving, moving forward, then I can't be in unforgiveness. And then nothing you say is going to offend me.
Yeah.
I've had people say some offensive things, and I'm just kind of like, meh.
Right.
First off, what do you matter to me?
That's a huge one. That's where it's got to start.
And growing up, my dad always said, remember who you are. Our whole lives, before the Lion King. He always said it every time, not every time, but when we'd go out, things, it's like, kind of like in today's age, it's make good choices, but there's a sense, remember who you are.
Yeah.
And growing up, I'm like, I don't know who the hell I am.
Right.
I don't know.
Who does?
But when kids and other people would talk trash and call me stuff, I may not have known who I was, but I could always take that, look at it and be like, well, I don't know who I am yet, but I'm not that.
Yeah.
And I just let it fall off.
Yeah.
And I got teased a bunch when I was in middle school, not kind of sort of in high school. And again, a little nugget of knowledge my mom told me when I was in, I don't know, when I was 12, was, this kid, we had a neighbor who was a rich kid and he was just a jerk. He was just nice enough to let you watch him play his new video games. And
you want to come over and watch me play?
Yeah, no joke. It wasn't even like you got a turn. You just watched him suck at every game he owned. And he was a really big jerk. And my mom's just like, you don't understand. He has a heart issue. And I don't remember the words she used, but essentially it was, he's hurting you because he's hurting.
Yeah.
It's not you, it's him. And man, that another thing I latched onto, because that carried me through. Everybody can go through the same experience and come out differently. You see that in combat. Some dudes can go through the most horrific situations, and they're not even phased because they know how to deal with it.
They can process it.
Yeah, process through it. And then you have these guys that were, they didn't even actually see combat. A rocket hit close, and that changed their life forever, and they're completely broken. And I'm not judging.
Right.
It's just they don't have the ability.
Yeah.
No one's taught them how to process it.
Yeah, the level of trauma is not what's important. It's their ability to process it.
Exactly.
Yep.
And which is sad because of all the things the military teaches you, it doesn't teach you how to process.
Right.
I did have one good class on how to get rid of like adrenaline and help your brain process through the physiological experience of too much adrenaline. They actually taught you exercises how to release the tension in your body, which then helps you release the tension in your mind because now your body's not holding it. And that was a good class. That was really cool. But outside of that, I really just I learned how to be a functioning alcoholic. Like, you mean I could drink a handle of bourbon and run 7 miles the next day after getting 2.5 hours of sleep?
Greatest things we learned from the Army.
Yeah. But thankfully, and I was super blessed. I had parents who loved me and tried to impart knowledge, and a lot of it stuck. And I still made a whole bunch of stupid choices. And, I'm trying to make less and less stupid choices every day.
Yeah, that's growth. That's what we can all hope for.
I also find, though, when you focus on the stupid choices, you make the stupid choices.
Yes.
Because they're at the forefront of your mind.
Exactly.
If you focus, the deepest and most intimate times that I've had with the Father in our relationship, when I wasn't worried about my sin, I wasn't worried about what I was doing wrong. Yes. I was focusing on my relationship with Him.
Yeah.
And you still got to be careful with that because you can still make really stupid choices whilst doing really good things.
Yeah. Yep.
And then guess what? There's consequences to everything.
Yeah.
There's reactions. There's
reactions to your actions.
You sow good seeds, you get good harvest. You sow destructive seeds, you get a destructive harvest.
Yeah.
And you can sow both at the same time.
Yeah. And that's like doing tricks on a bike, doing jumps or whatever, or even driving. What you're looking at, that's where you're naturally going to drive toward.
A buddy of mine was telling me about that when he was, I don't know if he was learning to ride a motorcycle and doing a course, or he was just doing the license test to get his motorcycle license. But he was saying, he's like, that instructor saved my life because he taught me that if you think you're going to crash, don't look at what you think you're going to crash at because you're going to hit it.
Yeah.
Look to where you want to be.
Yep.
Not to where you think you're going.
That's huge.
And everybody, next time you're driving and you're in a safe, straight road or whatever, look at the scenery and then see what your vehicle does.
Yeah.
Because unless you can't do both. You can look at the scenery and consciously try and stay straight, but you'll miss the scenery because your brain's imagining the road and keeping you straight.
Right.
But if you are genuinely, oh man, that is so beautiful, and then you're like, and you swerve back, you're going to go right towards it. I almost hit an elk today. Big, beautiful buck, dude. He was huge. Big old rack, like a trophy elk. And he was trying to get over one fence on the other side, the oncoming traffic. And then he gave up on that because he saw me. And then he comes back across. And I'm like, man, he is beautiful. Oh, that's a turn. Windy road.
Yep.
Thankfully, I was going very slow because I didn't want to hit the huge elk.
Yeah.
But what you're focused on is where you're going.
Yeah. Man, that is so big, too. I mean, you've got... I'm picturing as you're talking about that, some big pile up on the highway or something. Especially being on a motorcycle when I used to ride all the time. You have stuff happening in front of you that you don't want to hit. And isn't that a picture of life?
Yeah.
There's a lot of crap out there that can trip you up. But what I'm looking for, especially on the motorcycle at 70, 80 miles an hour, I'm looking for the gap.
Yeah.
Oh, there's the hole I need to hit.
Yep.
And you just, like a laser beam, focus on the hole you want to hit.
Yep.
And that can be, related to health, related to your prosperity or whatever. Not looking at my bills, my problems, my pain, my health issues, my psychological pain, those things, as much as I'm looking for, there's the gap.
Yeah.
This is what I need to do. That's where I need to go, and I'm focused on that. not what somebody did to wrong me or anything else. I want, okay, that's the gap I need to hit.
Yep.
And I think that's a big blind spot in the church, in the Western church for sure, and like both of us have grown up, that they don't teach how.
Yeah.
You know, we were talking about the other day, one of the big steps is you've got to let go of things to reach for what's ahead. Mm-hmm. We're all wanting to move forward, but you got to let go of some stuff to focus on the front. And I started thinking, what is that? How do I do that? Mm-hmm. I don't want to be that person now that says, yeah, just let go.
Yeah.
You know, don't take offense, don't whatever, and do these easy things. Okay, show me how.
Yeah.
And I think with the letting go, the first step of that how is realizing, okay, why was I holding on to that? Why am I holding on to that now?
Yeah.
Why am I holding on to that person that hurt me, that situation or whatever, and try to drill that down to, you know, I was getting some kind of acceptance from them.
Yeah.
I was getting some kind of fulfillment.
Yep.
Where else can I get that fulfillment? Oh, in this or that, you know, that I create, mm-hmm. that I'm in control of, that I don't give control to somebody else.
Yeah.
So now I can transfer that need to hold on to whatever that was into this new thing. And that's actually the how, the start of the letting go,
so
to move to that gap.
Two things. Shooting for the gap, you're focused on where you want to go, and mm-hmm. you keep everything else in your peripheral vision.
Yeah.
Your dangers come out of your peripheral. Mm-hmm. You know, you don't, if you have a problem with whatever, name it, mm-hmm. you don't ignore the problem, mm-hmm. so to speak. You just don't give it a place on your table. You don't give it a place mm-hmm. in your vision of the future. And then you use your peripheral vision to watch out for the danger.
Yeah. Pick up any movement.
Pick up any movement that's coming in that could become a danger. Mm-hmm. And especially if I've never driven a motorcycle, but I've driven cars, and my peripheral vision is what alerts me to potential hazard.
Yeah.
And then I look over for a second, and then I adjust and I keep going. Mm-hmm. I don't stop and focus on the issue or the potential issue. I'm like, when I was a functioning alcoholic and then that fell off, I wasn't trying to quit drinking. Mm-hmm. That wasn't even in my...
That's huge.
It wasn't on my plate. It wasn't in front of me at all. Mm-hmm. I was focused on my relationship with the Father so intensely that just fell off. Mm-hmm. The desire, the need, I didn't have any, side effects, anything like that. It just fell off because of what I was focused on.
Yeah.
And I think it's different for everybody. I could tell you ways to help with the physiological, because then later I started, years later, I started drinking, I wouldn't say too much, but more than I needed and more than I wanted. Mm-hmm. But now that I had this issue with the habit of it, because now it was a habit. Mm-hmm. People have habits of, and patterns of, you got to drink coffee every morning. You miss your coffee, your whole day's ruined. Yeah. I had a habit of having a drink in my hand, and I smoked at the time. So it's like, man, if I had a cigarette, I wanted to drink, and I had to have it in my hand, and the sugar withdrawals, depending on what you're drinking, there's all this physiological issues. Mm-hmm. It's not even the alcohol at that point. You have sugar withdrawals, you have the habit withdrawals. Yeah. But that first time, man, I was just laser focused, and all of that just was gone. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't, I don't even think it didn't even hit my peripheral until years later when it was starting to become an issue again. But again, didn't focus on the issue, just focused on, where I wanted to go. Yeah. Yeah. And again, Bill Johnson, and I'm not going to hit this quote dead on, but he said something in that same book. If you're focused on the past, you have no time to dream.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And like I said, that's not exactly how he put it, but that's the gist of it. Because like you were just saying, you got to let things go. Well, how do you let it go? Mm-hmm. You got to decide what's important to you. Right. Because if you only have so much processing power, mm-hmm. if you're spending your time focused on what people did to you and hurt you, mm-hmm. instead of focusing on where you want to be, right, you're just going to be in the hurt of what those people did to you. Yeah. And for me at this point, and it doesn't really help anybody, because when somebody does something, I have a friend and they're like, how do you just let that go? I'm like, they're not important to me.
Yeah.
They were important to me, and
Right.
now they're not.
Exactly.
They removed themselves from my life in a place of importance when they did this.
Yeah.
And for some of them, they could get back to a place of importance, depending on how we reconcile, if we reconcile.
Right. Yeah.
But that's not a need of mine.
Yeah.
My needs are my relationship with the Father, my relationship with my wife, and my boys. That's it.
Yeah.
And then my immediate family, and then friends. And even like we talked about this, I'm like, if you offended me so badly that I'm like, wow, that came out of nowhere, or you were just like, hey man, I don't want to do this podcast anymore, I think you're an a-hole, we're done, I'd be like, wow, that came out.
Didn't see that happening.
Yeah, I didn't see that coming at all. And it kind of hurt, but at the same time, I'd be like, well, I'm going to leave the door open for you if you, whatever I did to offend you, whatever made you move away from me, because I didn't move away from you. Whatever I did to cause you to remove our intimacy of relationship and place it into a place of offense, that's on you.
Exactly.
That's not on me.
Yeah. And it takes two to reconcile.
Yeah.
So if you can stay in that place of, I want to reconcile, I want to make this right, which is right and good, but if the other person doesn't want to, I mean, that's like being Captain Obvious here, but in the middle of a pain, we've got to be willing to let that go if they don't want to reconcile.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, how do I do this? I know it's right to reconcile. They don't want to, so I can either carry this forever with this pain, or I can figure out, okay, that's, I need to start processing that to let it go. It's not staying focused on it forever. It's, okay, like we were talking about, what I need to replace that person. I need to replace that act, the drinking, the whatever. I need to replace that with something else so that'll help me let that go, and I can shoot for the gap of my future and dream and keep moving forward.
And I think for me is I just put it into a process of importance. For me to let things go, it's what's important to me, and that changes. So what's important to me right now?
Yeah.
Does this person does this affect me positively or negatively? And then go back to what's important, because it's, if it's outside of your immediate family, even if they're the friend you've had for 30 years, if they don't want to be a part of your life, the only reason you're upset is because you're being self-centered, because they hurt you. And it's hard, people. You just got to take the truth with a little bit of sugar.
Yeah.
You're being self-centered and selfish because they hurt you, and now you're being self-conscious as to why did they leave you? What's wrong with you that they left?
Right. Yeah.
And if you can sit there and assess it and be like, it's not me, and if it is you just got to be honest. But if it's not you, let it go.
Yeah.
And go back to what's important to me now. Are they a part of your life? Are they a part of your mission? Are they a part of your drive, your goals? No?
Yeah.
Well, then you leave the door open if you get to that place of forgiveness, which hopefully you will. Yeah. You just leave that door open for them to come walking back through when they do the same. Yeah. And if they never do, that's okay.
I think a core thing with this too.
Before you go, reset and I got to get that big clock up.
Right. We need one we can hang on the front of the tripod.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Of course, we'd be looking back at it.
All right. And we're back.
Back on. Very nice.
It was only a moment for you, but about 10 minutes for us.
We're cooking with gas now. What you were saying that, so much pain could be avoided, or I wouldn't say avoided because we live among people, but it could be processed a lot better.
Mm-hmm.
We can process quicker and, stay healthier ourselves, mentally, emotionally healthier if we learn to be good in ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm fully functional, fully satisfied within myself, and kind of remove that need.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the need for other people's acceptance, approval, and I've always kind of put that on a superficial level,
mm-hmm.
but I think at a deeper level, it brings a significant amount of safety and security if everybody around us kind of believes the same thing.
Yes.
If we're all headed together, we're in this herd.
Yeah.
You're headed for the cliff, maybe, but if we're all in this herd, then we feel safe.
Yeah.
But to bring that internal, and I feel safe just within me and Father,
mm-hmm.
and complete in that, then somebody does me wrong, I can get over that a lot quicker and say, okay, yeah, okay, they're not part of us anymore.
Yeah.
And put them aside, and like you were saying, if they want to reconcile, cool, good for it.
Yep.
But if they don't, hey, I'm still good. I'm still moving forward, and it doesn't trip us up as long.
Yeah, and again, when it comes to being offended, you have to take offense.
Mm-hmm.
You have to take it.
Yeah.
You can leave it.
Mm-hmm.
And that goes in every relationship. With my wife and I, she can piss me off.
Mm-hmm.
I can be offended. But I have to accept that offense, and then it's like there's multiple steps, Somebody does somebody, and so I like to think of with spouses, because I think that's the hardest relationship
mm-hmm.
you can have, because it matters.
Right.
Consequences
are a lot bigger.
And that's something that the world, but specifically the church, has failed at really addressing within the church, within communities, is marital relationships.
Mm-hmm.
I forget who it was. They were talking about, within the church, if there's infidelity in a relationship, the spouse's church friends are more often the ones to be like, get a divorce, leave him, leave her. Mm-hmm. Whereas because they're so judgmental, they did wrong, they did you wrong, leave them.
Eating from the tree of good and evil.
Yep. Whereas the worldly people who aren't Christians or don't go to church are the ones that, people make mistakes. If you love them, you should really work this out.
More forgiving.
If he loves you, or, if you love her, you should really just work through this, mm-hmm. figure out what happened, and get it, and fix it.
Yeah.
And I think the church talks about that,
mm-hmm.
but they're not very good at practicing it.
Right.
Because it's nobody knows how to. And then the other thing, people take offense for you. So your friend, your spouse cheats on you, and your friend's mad at that person for you, mm-hmm. and then they want judgment for you and righteousness for you, and then it's just like, well, hold on a minute.
Yep.
That's not your job.
Yeah.
To be offended for me.
Exactly.
And I think, like, having military buddies and being in the military, you figure that out real quick, because there's a lot of idiots.
Yeah.
But it's like they've been through, 3 divorces, and they've cheated and been cheated on, and, so then they're just like, well, man, it happens, but what do you want to do?
Yeah.
What do you want to do with it?
Right.
Is she important to you? Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. Are you important to her? Well, yeah, we want to work this out. Okay, so let's figure this out.
Yeah.
And the church gets so caught up in the sin of it.
Mm-hmm. Black and white.
Yeah, they get so caught up in the sin that they forget that there's people attached to it.
Yes. Yep.
And it's like, and more often than not, there's so much more depth to why what happened
Right.
than anyone realizes. You know, and Danny Silk talks about it really good. And you know, it's like, never blame the victim. Okay. I'm really going to offend some people. There's usually a part to every party, unless outside of child abuse.
Yeah, there's exceptions.
It's well, I mean, like outside of child abuse and straight kidnapping, and you know, there's exceptions, but more often than not, it is a two-party system.
Yeah, right.
You know, if a married couple are having problems, there's usually participation on both sides.
Yeah.
That doesn't justify any action.
Right.
That doesn't alleviate the stupidity of whoever did what. But it's a two-party system.
Yeah. There's hurt on both sides.
Exactly.
That's leading to this.
And there's more often, I'd say all the time, it's disconnection between the individuals. They're disconnected in some manner, and then that disconnection leads to really stupid choices.
Right.
All that being said, you know, when I'm talking about, you know, what's important to you, hopefully, if your spouse is important to you, then you're going to be able to take that offense. You know, in that moment, you get offended, and then be like, what's more important to me? Myself or my spouse? Because if my spouse is more important to me than my feelings, it's easy for me to set that offense aside and leave it where and let it die where it sits. If I'm more important to me than my spouse, then I'm going to take that offense, and if I'm disciplined, I'm going to let it, you know, fester for 3 months and then blow up on her about it later.
Yeah.
You know,
Pocket that away.
but that's what it boils down to, in my very uneducated opinion. If you need to figure out who's more important, if you've married somebody because you say you love them, then they should be more important to you than your feelings. And if you can get to the point where you can actually manifest that, then you won't get offended. You'll be able to look past that offense, look inward and say, what am I doing? Where am I missing the mark with my spouse to where now they're manifesting this bitterness? What have I done?
Right. What's my part in this?
What's my part in this this issue? And how can I move forward? What do I need to do moving forward to remedy this problem?
Right.
And if we focus on ourselves,
Huge.
and that's where the relationship with the Father comes in, because He'll show you. It's like, Lord, show me where I'm broken.
Yeah. Show me what I can do here.
And work on me. Working on me is going to work on my relationship.
Yeah.
And if you have a good relationship, then you can have an honest exchange and be like, I see that I did this. And I think that's what's adding to the issue here, why you're acting like that.
Yeah.
And if your spouse and you are in a good, intimate relationship, then they're going to do the same thing. You know, and I think this is what being an adult is all about, is you get to a point of honesty about what's important to you. And if you have a spouse, then they should be more important to you than you.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of becoming one, and that union of the two. To now it's like, okay, relationship with the Father, my spouse.
Yeah. Yeah.
For that relationship with my spouse to really work, I need to look at what I'm doing. I got to love them more than I love myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is, I don't know, that sounds familiar.
Yeah. Well, and the funny twist on that too is, I need to love them more than I love myself. And at the same time, I can't love them unless I love myself. And it's all true. But if I am comfortable enough in my own skin, if I'm fully fulfilled, like we were talking about, then I don't need anything from them.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm complete and full here, and I'm free, now because I've taken care of myself. Now I'm free to give sacrificially, to love them and give them everything I can.
Yep.
But to not need your spouse to do something, there's things I want my spouse to do.
Yeah.
You know, and showing me love and respect and, you know, kindness and all those. There's things that I want, but I don't. Now I can say that hasn't always been true for sure. But now I feel like I don't need those things.
Yeah.
I'm receiving those internal because I have the entire kingdom of heaven in me that should contain everything that I need.
Yep.
So it's no longer I need something from them. It's, I still have some wants, but those wants are a lot easier to let go if they're not met.
Yep.
Because I'm completely fulfilled anyway. And being in that position, I can still be offended at things, but a whole lot less.
Yeah.
If it's a want instead of a need.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, it's the difference between I need this to survive.
Yeah.
And I want this right now, or in general.
Yeah.
You know.
Very true.
What were you saying? Well, and again, and then if you and your spouse are intimate emotionally and have that open, honest relationship, and you're both doing the same thing at the same time, you're both focused on your relationship with the Father, which is self-love, getting yourself right, and then you're focused on loving your spouse more than you love yourself, because you're already fulfilled. It makes it easier. I mean, Jesus was, again, the perfect example of loving everyone else more than himself, to take the torture. You know, and it's not just he got nailed to a cross and suffocated, and died.
Yeah.
It's not just that. I mean, he was beaten, ridiculed, tortured, like the worst of, beaten beyond recognition.
Yeah.
Like, that's a beating.
Yeah.
Like, you were beat to the point where the people who knew you most, your mother, couldn't even recognize your figure.
Yeah.
That's a beating.
That's a beating. Yep.
So much so that when he was getting taken, he rebuked, was it Peter? For, stopping him getting, or attempting
standing
to,
in the way.
Yeah, standing in the way of him going into what he knew was going to be the worst experience of his life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then crucify. That was probably easy after the beating.
Right. So, please nail me up so I can get done with this.
Yeah. So it's that's loving people more than yourself.
Gosh.
There's no greater love than this, laying your life down for your brother. That's it. So if we can get to the point, and of course, and again, that's like those grand gestures, because of the moments in which they come, taking a bullet for somebody else, saving their life, whatever, seem easy compared to taking that same exact approach to your relationships with other people. Take the bullet of their bitterness, take the bullet of their mean comment, and put it aside. Because if you would take a bullet for somebody, like I'm pretty sure every husband out there who loves his wife was like, yeah, I'd take a bullet for her in a heartbeat. Then take her mean words, bullets, and put them aside, dude.
Yeah.
And again, sounds easier.
Yeah. You have to get into the how for you.
Yeah.
But I think the big part of that is being complete in yourself.
That's everything.
Yeah.
And
that's the key. That's the golden key that unlocks.
Is knowing who you are.
Yeah.
Your identity in Christ with the Father moves you into a place of understanding of what's really important.
Yeah.
And once you start moving into that place of what's important, your priorities shift drastically.
Yeah.
And like, again, with relationships, if you intentionally, because at first it has to be intentional. If you get separation, if you have separation in a relationship, friendship, marriage, doesn't matter, and that intimacy is lost, you stop being intentional with your love.
Mm-hmm.
So, like
Yeah.
in relationships is the easiest way, but it's in friendships too. If you're not, when you're dating, everything is intentional. Everything you do is intentional. The way you open a door for
Right.
them, where you place your hand, if you're holding hands, every single moment is an intentional moment
Yeah.
because you're trying to get that person.
Right.
And then as soon as you get them, it becomes less and less intentional and more into a routine.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where that intimacy is lost. That's where that separation begins to happen because you don't have those intentional moments.
Right.
My wife has, on a multitude of occasions, gone out of her way to intentionally get me something little, like cigars.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't have to be over by where the shop was, but she went cross town to that shop to get me some cigars and went out of her way to get me something little to intentionally show me love.
Yeah.
And it's a purposeful act.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where that intimacy is lost, is because you get into a routine and there's no intentional acts anymore.
Right. Yeah. Get into life. Life gets busy.
Yep.
Kids, all that, and it distracts. Yeah.
And then we all we shift back into focusing on ourselves instead of the other person.
Yeah.
And in friendship, it's funny, we started watching that Rings of Power on Amazon.
Yeah.
And it was the second episode, I think, second or third, where the elven dude goes to talk to who he thought was a best friend, dwarven dude, and he's super pissed at him.
Yeah.
And he doesn't know why, and he finally breaks down and he's like, "You missed my wedding, you missed the birth of my 2 children, I haven't seen you in 20 years, And he's like, "It might be a blink of an eye to you, but it was my entire life."
Yeah.
And it's like, dang,
Yeah, he didn't realize it.
I mean, in the eternity of a elven life,
Yeah, it's like
20 years was
20
nothing.
years.
But that's what happens in friendships. If we're not intentional about our friendships, those things get lost, and that offense and bitterness can slip in, and we're not taught how to deal with that.
Right. Yeah. And like we were, you're saying the Who, like when we were talking about the storm and stuff, one of the things that developed out of that, was that remembering the 5 W's. Mm-hmm. And that's what you've been talking about with the Who. Mm-hmm. Remember who you are. Yeah. And that's massive, but you can also, helpful to remember what you are. Yeah. We're talking about, I am peace. Yep. I am joy. I am love. All the fruit of the Spirit, which we are spirit. It's like, that's what I truly am. Yeah. So we know the who, the what, and then I think very important to know the when and the where. Yeah. That being present. I'm right now. Mm-hmm. I'm right here. Yep. Not in the past. Yes. Even exactly. 10 seconds ago. Yeah. Yeah. When that offensive thing happened, okay, I'm not there anymore. Yep. I'm right here. And from right here, what gap do I see? Yeah. What is the outlet out of this danger area? Where is that I want to go in the future of our relationship, of whatever it is? Yeah. And of course, remembering why we exist, to love. I mean, break it down to a 1980s video game timeline. Mm-hmm. If you're on a 2D flat surface timeline, mm-hmm. and there's a little blip where the offense is, if you keep moving forward, where are you? You're not in that offense. Right. You can just keep going. Yeah. Keep moving. Don't pick it up and put it in your backpack mm-hmm. and take it with you. Right. If you're on that mountain path, yeah. You really want to keep all the weight of every single, even if you just boil it down to the most important people in your life, mm-hmm. do you really want to carry all the weight of the fence? That's great. Think of a fence as a big ass rock, mm-hmm. and you're hiking a mountain, right. and every time someone offends you, you put that rock in your pack. Mm-hmm. That's where bitterness comes from, because right. that weight is weighing you down. That's a tormentor in your pack. In your pack. And it breaks your body down. It breaks your spirit. Mm-hmm. It turns you into somebody who you weren't. Slows you down. Yep.
take the rock, take the offense, look at it, and really, is this important enough for, I mean, that's a perfect analogy. Is this rock important enough for me to carry it to the top of my mountain?
Right. Yeah.
Because if it's not, let it go.
Yeah. And then it's the understanding how, again. Okay, what is my attachment to this rock?
Yeah. Why did this offense hurt me so much?
Yeah. Somebody put it in my pack.
No, somebody put it next to me, put it in my path, and I picked it up.
Yeah, I picked it up. So why is it important to me? What was I getting out of this relationship? You know, and take the time, whatever it is that's needed. We're eternal beings, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
But the longer you carry it, the more it's going to slow you down. The more, like you said, it's going to break your body down and all of this. But if we're able to look at that and say, why was this important to me? Oh, it's because I was getting that from it. I was getting some security. I was getting some satisfaction, some joy from it. Okay, what's my path out of there?
Yeah.
What's the clear path? Okay, I can transfer that to this activity that's actually in front of my path.
Yeah.
Now I can set that rock back down on the path and move on toward that other and not be damaged by it.
Yeah.
Because I took the time to process it. I took the time to transfer whatever I was getting from that to somewhere else.
Yeah.
And I processed it correctly, and I can leave it behind without damaging myself and move along.
Well, and again, take a moment to step outside of your corporeal timeline and try and digest the thought of eternity and how little the importance of your 70, 100-year life of eternity is.
Yeah.
Is this something... Because once you die and you leave your meat suit behind, your pack filled with rocks doesn't come with you.
Right.
All of that is literally gone. So why make the short span of your corporeal life harder than it needs to be?
Yeah.
If you can just take a step back and look at the grand scheme of eternity of, this won't even matter to me.
Right.
After the moment I die.
Yeah. It's backing up from it, not focusing on it, but backing up from it and getting that wide view.
Yeah.
I love that with some of Dr. Joe Dispenza's like guided meditation stuff. A lot of it has to do with that of expanding, seeing yourself in space. And picturing how vast that space is in front of you. And then how all the space behind you and to both sides of you. And it's just like, I don't know, it helps mentally to step back and emotionally to step back from all that and realize, okay, what I truly am, spirit being, came from God. He breathed me. We literally came out of him as breath. And that's what we are. And back up a little bit from all, it's kind of like seeing the picture of the earth from the moon or whatever.
I've seen the ones where it's like it's the earth and it just keeps pulling out.
Yeah.
And it pulls out into the vastness of space, and then it's like, you're here, and you're and it's this weird combination of you're not important, but you're the most important thing in the universe.
Yeah. Chew on that.
You just gotta, like you said, take that step back, figure out the why. Why am I so offended? What am I getting from this person? Is it worth, is it even worth it to have a conversation? Where are they at? What's going on with them?
Right.
Because more often than not, if somebody's offending you, again, like my mom told me, they're hurt, so they're hurting somebody else. They're hurting you. If somebody's offending you, they're being even unintentionally or intentionally mean. What's going on in their life? And if you truly profess to be a follower of Christ, you should be more worried about what's going on with them than how they offended you.
Yeah. because you're complete in yourself.
You're complete. So why did this person do what they did? And then, Holy Spirit, what's going on with them? Give me a word of knowledge so I can help them. I can better love them and help pull them out of whatever they're in.
Right.
And again, are they important enough to so we should really just like do a flow chart of this process of, are they important enough for you to spend any emotional time and space on?
Right.
No, let it go.
Yeah.
Put the rock down.
Yeah.
Are they? Yes, they are. Okay. What can you do? And just do a flow chart to help people process.
What did I get from this relationship that's taken away now?
Yeah.
Where can I place I'm getting this. Okay, where can I place that now?
Yeah.
A flow chart would be beautiful for that.
And honestly, just to help you remember the questions you should be asking, because it's outside of your spouse and your immediate family, and even then, outside of your spouse, because you've made a commitment, even with family members, it's like, is this worth my time?
Right.
Yeah. Is this a family member who you've never liked and they've never liked you and you have a horrible relationship? And it's like,
cut it off.
And that's the thing. You don't have to stop loving them.
Right.
But if it's poison, stop drinking it.
Yeah. Set the cup down. Walk away from it.
Some things we have to shelve.
Yeah.
Some relationships we have to shelve.
Yep.
Even within, the most closely knit ones. If it's your pastor, okay. You don't have to be there.
Yep.
You don't, whatever it is.
Yeah.
You gotta, we should really make that flow chart. Because you just got to go through it and
yeah, that'll be a downloadable.
Yeah.
Eventually here. Oh, that's cool.
Let's see if this thing's going to chime.
Yeah.
Got a new timer. It's not my watch timer.
Yep.
And it has a little chime when we need to
stand by for 20 seconds.
Yep.
And we'll see if that does. Good episode. Covered a handful of things. And
and it's interesting where it went.
Yeah. Very much so. Yeah.
And it does, it does all tie together.
Yep. So until next time.
Oh, that's not the noise I wanted.
It's like a wake-up alarm. Lame.
Yep. Until next time.
Yeah.
We will see you guys. Well, no, but you can't even see us on this one.
No. Oh.
But be blessed.
I'm gonna have
Find
to
out what's important to you and make some changes.